this is, it's called CAMS, Citizen Application Management System. This is the one I alluded to, which was implemented. Actually, we started the go live in June or July 2015, and we started to load applications in there. But we took a while and a strategic approach to the rollout to service providers. We had to ensure that there was the right level of security in our system, and make sure that the firewalls were there, double firewalls, and use token key access, so our service providers have access to that system, and that allows them to put in an application into the unit 7 days a week, 24/7. So it should not slow them down. Now, I know a lot of service providers say, well, but it takes a lot of time to key in the information. Well, it's better that that information is keyed in by the service providers so that they can check the information that they're receiving from the applicants. Right? And then when it gets to us, we can focus on the quality of the documentation that comes in, and then process that as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Okay. There are other initiatives that we did recently, for example, as part of our continued automation. And we'll continue making strides in this front. Historically, the unit will sell application forms. And a service provider will have to come and buy a batch of application forms, and if somebody makes a mistake on it, they'll have to buy another one at $250 a pop. But the problem, and this really came to a head when I was out in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, when I met with a bunch of marketing agents, agents out there, and this was the biggest issue that they had, that they weren't sending applications to St. Kitts, because they said every time we have a client that comes into our office and we then have to request a form, we have to send $250 down to the unit. Then it has to be FedEx, so we have that FedEx cost. And if they make a mistake, I have to get another one.
It's time consuming.
Right? And then it's taken 3 or 4 days. I might as well just take the application from Dominica or Grenada or so on. So it became my challenge, to try to improve that efficiency. And Cabinet recently approved the use of a digital version of the application form. So now we've gone out to all the service providers and said, all right, guys, here is the digital version. You can exhaust what you have in paper and start using this as soon as you want, which then means that it gets out to the agents as quickly as possible. They don't have to ask for a second copy. If somebody makes a mistake, they reprint it, and it's all about efficiency. It's all about making it easy, and I think that's our mantra.
Well, if you want to make business difficult for people, then the people will make business difficult for you.
Well, this is true, and one of the things that I say to my management team and the unit there is that we're running a business, and we have to think along those lines. We have to think about who our clients are, and focus on doing the best that we can to process. Because word of mouth gets around, and that is driving applications. I and the unit mess up on an application. That guy has 13 applications behind him with his family, and they're not going to come here. So we have to make sure we get them.
Now, can you speak to the maturity of the St. Kitts and Nevis product? I know you touched on, snippets of it and so on.
Yeah, I like to look at it as, any product that has been developed, and you go through a product life cycle. And you reach to a point of maturity and you peak. And if you take your eyes off the ball when you peak, you're going to have a drop down because the competition comes in. We're at that point. All right. We peaked we took our eyes off the ball a little. Now we have to re-engage. We have to make sure that we are there, and the steps are being taken. We have taken the steps. We are there, and I expect that to continue.
Okay, now what is the role of Skipper? It is the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency. What role does it play, or how is it related to the CBI program?
Okay, so Skipper is responsible for vetting and reviewing all applications for investment, primarily in the real estate side. And they are responsible for making the recommendations of cabinet.
Sure.
The unit will get its the approved project in real estate project from Skipper, and that is where we take off and we run with it from that point in time. Now Skipper in early 2015 also announced a technical committee, and these are some of the progressive moves made by the government and the current administration to ensure the quality of product and quality of real estate. So the technical committee is responsible for analyzing the investment option, but also in reviewing the standards that they have set and making sure that the developer is adhering to the standards. So they actually conduct site visits and then make recommendations to the government on those. Okay,
now Mr. Khan, we have to go to the phone lines now, so we'll put on our earphones and we are going to hear from the people, which is so important, a program so important to the development of our people. They should have a say in it.
Okay.
And so the numbers to call are the local number 465-2555. That's 465-2555, and the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. We await your calls. There is no one on the line at the moment, and we will continue. All of what you said is so important: the due diligence, the reforms, the marketing of the program, and all of that. But it cannot be done alone. Yes. We need a team, and we need that team spirit to be able to carry out that very important work. And you need people who are serious, people who know what they are doing, because one slip, you can slide. And we know what that means. So what caliber of staff do you have working at the Citizenship by Investment unit?
As part of the initial modifications within the unit, there were a number of people who were hired with varying backgrounds, all higher tertiary education. We have the right caliber of individual at the senior management level. And this forms the core of the CIU, is the management team. And these are individuals who have AML, anti-money laundering, and KYC experience, who have experience in financial analysis. We have one individual who has worked in immigration. And this combination of individuals with their strengths, each one with their strength, adds to the type of strength that the unit has, and our ability to make decisions as a unified team. Now, unification does not only stop there.
Right.
All right. So what we've had is an improved engagement with Skipper, for example, and my trip to Abu Dhabi was in conjunction with Skipper to be part of their conferences.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Pleasant good afternoon, Mr. Williams, and to your panel.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my two questions are, is the level of due diligence for the CIB program now at a higher quality as opposed to the former dispensation? And my second question is, due to the lack of proper vetting under the former dispensation is why we had the Finton advisory put on us and we lost our visa access to Canada, because we've been hearing a lot of back and forth, and I'm very glad we have people from the program, so it's from the horse's mouth as it were. So I'd just like to have that clarified. Thank you.
Well, let me clarify one thing. I'm not from the program. We have Mr. Khan, of course, who is the CEO of the Citizenship by Investment Unit, and he's the one that is basically explaining the reforms and so on that have been brought about under his watch. Mr. Khan, would you like to?
Yes, thanks for making the call. First of all, the due diligence process has always been a robust process. I don't believe that under the prior group and process that it faltered. I think maybe the decision making might have been there, but as a result of the fact that we have multiple due diligence providers and we can articulate the process that they're following, the fact that we have now added the third level of law enforcement to the due diligence process makes it a much more robust program. One of the things that we engage in the Caribbean is all of the heads of CIUs have an association, and we meet every quarter to discuss standards and so on. So as we move forward, you'd be hearing more about that, the standards that we are setting in the programs across the region, because we all recognize that if one person fails in any one of these jurisdictions, the whole program across the region fails.
Astonished.
Right? So from that perspective, I think there has been a lot of steps taken to strengthen communication, to strengthen how we perform our due diligence. On the last question, which we talk about FinCEN advisory and visa free access from Canada, I think those decisions were made for various reasons, and really I, as the new head of the unit, I really can't get into that stuff because I really don't know all of the details around it. All I can say is, as a result of those things, we have strengthened our program, and we are in constant dialogue to ensure transparency and efficiency in what we do.
Now, those programs that have come on stream in terms of the CBI are all countries within the OECS. All OECS countries. I mean, we have very small economies of scale. There's very little that we produce.
Yeah.
And so therefore, citizenship by investment is one route of somehow stimulating our economies.
That's correct.
You mentioned, because our economies are so small, and we have this citizenship by investment program, yet it poses certain risks, but at the very same time it brings certain economic benefits and blessings, if you want to call it that, and that it must be somehow protected, not in a sort of a territorial way, but in a sort of a collective way, in which all of these CBI programs in the various OECS territories, that they can see that, look, we are part of the bigger picture. And one apple can actually spoil the whole bunch. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch.
Yes.
Do we have sort of a coming together of the stakeholders or the players or the protagonists, if you want to call them that, within these, is it 5 countries within the OECS? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a discussion.
Again, under the current administration, and Prime Minister Harris was the first to work with IPSA International, and I was the lead to establish a regional conference. The first conference of regional CBIs was held here in St. Kitts back in June of 2015, I believe. And the whole intention of that was to bring the parties who had citizenship programs to the table. We also invited our international partners. So we had the US, Canada, EU, and UK as members of that initial, what we like to call the OTI conference, because it was held at OTI.
We have a call. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams, and a pleasant good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon.
I have a question, and it goes like this. Can a private citizen who has some private property to sell, for example, a house, say valued at, let's say, $500,000 US for simplicity, can one who buys the property, a foreigner, can economic citizenship be gained via a transaction like that, a private citizen selling to a foreigner?
I believe a long time ago that might have been the case, but now any citizenship program, real estate program, to be included in the CBI has to be approved through cabinet. So it's not as simple as just one sale of a house as part of a CBI effort.
I see. So does that mean then that the private citizen who has property for sale would have to seek, I guess, an approval from cabinet for that transaction to be considered under the Economic by Citizenship program?
They'd have to work with the Skipper group.
Oh, they'll have to go through Skipper also, yes?
Yeah, Skipper is the one that would work with them. But obviously the initiative is to drive investment in tourism and to increase the hotel industry, the number of rooms on the country and so on. So these projects have to meet certain criteria, and those are defined by Skipper.
Thanks for the explanation, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, there's no call.
So just following up on where I left out. As the initial leader and a leader in the program, St. Kitts and Nevis had the first regional conference.
Yes.
At that point in time, IPSA and myself, being the leader in IPSA, we agreed to run the conferences every 3 months in different islands and give an opportunity to showcase that island. And we got commitment from our international partners to be part of this. And the agreement was to run it for a year. We did, and I'm pleased to say that 3 months ago, the islands, all the countries actually, and the heads of the CIUs agreed to take over that from IPSA. And now IPSA is no longer involved in the association.
Okay.
And we meet every 3 months, and the next meeting is scheduled in Dominica. And we invite, again, as associate members, we invite Canada, US, UK, and EU, if they can make it. But the objective is to have discussions at the CIU head levels where we can talk about process. We can talk about the technical issues, but we can also make recommendations to the policymakers being our various ministers, who can then take it to another level.
Sure.
So if one of the objectives we have in the coming meeting is to talk about a code of conduct that can be implemented to our service providers and agents across the region. standardization of forms, standardization of maybe some fees. I'm not sure, but these are all open for dialogue in that session.
Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, I once heard a man say that our Citizenship by Investment program was attracting so many applicants that it was the envy of places like Canada and the United States, and that they were concerned that our program was giving them competition. And so therefore, they had to find a way to sort of tarnish our program. Do you think that that was the case?